Let's just stay here a little longer. This will be the closest to family that I'll ever manage before I try again.
A sudden halt in the bus's brakes woke you abruptly from your dozing nap. You were more relieved that it helped disguise your sudden gulp of air from the dream you had, watching the large crowd of people crossing the street ahead. The frequency of the dreams were becoming problematic. At first it was just some fantasy fodder, but it grew more consistent, more real, as if you were able to touch and smell tangible thought. The people you saw were odd, unbelievable monsters, and their voices were growing louder with every waking dream. You exhaled deeply, trying to rid yourself of the stress that crept on your back. You knew this feeling, repeating a mantra in your head whenever you found yourself feeling this way. Baku, 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 you mumbled, pinching the bridge of your nose and taking deep breaths while the bus continued to make its way through the city. You peeked through your fingers to spot a large ethereal shape surrounding you from above, watching it float about towards every slumbering passenger on the bus. It was never clear to see, but you had figured it was Baku itself, the great dream catcher. Growing up with constant nightmares helped develop a bond with the creature, watching it feed on any slumbering nightmares in wait. And yet, you were the only one who could see it. Except for children. Children had an innate way of sensing such things. Eventually, it disappeared into thin air, probably satisfied with its feed. The bus stopped at one of its designated bays, dropping off and picking up passengers. 5 more stops to go, you thought. Then you can collect your thoughts. Valentine's Day, despite it being in time to celebrate love and passion, you felt quite the opposite. These dreams kept plaguing you for some time now, almost vividly every night. You could have sworn you saw blue flames and felt them lick at your skin.
Mind if I sit here?
Asked a voice beside you. Yeah, go for your life, you replied, leaning against the window.
Thanks.
The man took his seat beside you, minding his business, and yet felt different from most people. There was an energy about him, one you couldn't quite describe. You glanced towards him, dark hair sitting messily atop his head while he just stared ahead in his seat. He did look quite dashing, despite that slightly off-putting look on his face. Perhaps he wasn't a people person. The antisocial type, running through your head the number of countless behaviors he may inhabit in a social situation. Maybe he was shy. It would be unfair to judge someone by first
You're staring.
impression. You cleared your throat and turned your eyes away from him. Were you staring at him? It felt like you just dove into your thoughts and drifted. I wasn't, you replied.
And you're a bad liar.
He added, dryly. Who are you to judge someone so quickly? You snapped back, turning back to face him. His dark eyes stared down at you with a scowl and a grimace.
To be honest, it's part of my job,
he answered, turning his eyes back ahead towards the front of the bus.
I'm surprised I was called out to work today, considering the holiday.
Huh? It's not much of a holiday, really. You mused, leaning back into the booth. It's just something for the masses to focus their attention on, away from everything else in the world. You decided to stare outside the window, hoping that would be the end of the conversation at hand, while you watched the buildings fly by, as well as the people that walked on the pavement. It was just another day.
I think humans appreciate that,
Spoke the man beside you.
There are worse things going on, and some happiness, no matter how tiny it is, could go a long way.
Really? If two people loved each other, they would show it every day, not just spend one occasion on a holiday constructed by capitalist culture to show their love through flowers, chocolates, or whatever gifts they want to give.
You explained cynically.
You glanced at the man who had his eye on you, staring, and yet was still. That moment of silence earned a sigh from your lips. Oh, sorry to sound so pessimistic.
You droned. It's Megumi Fushiguro, by the way.
You eyed the man suspiciously and curiously, before watching him stare back towards the front of the bus. Fushiguro seemed intent to keep his gaze focused there and not continue the conversation forward, one that he inevitably started. Despite the fact that perhaps you were staring at him earlier, but not intentionally. The bus's brakes stopped again with another jerk, causing your body to almost jump from the seat, until Fushiguro's arm grabbed a hold of your shoulders, holding you in place. Other passengers turned their attention towards the front of the bus, wondering what was happening with the unexpected traffic.
You okay?
Asked Fushiguro. Yeah, I'm fine. You answered, grabbing a hold of his hand. His touch felt electric, like pressure. That sense of energy you felt earlier ran through your body like a wave. It was almost eerie, and disappeared the moment he let go.
Well, we'll see, won't we?
He mused, catching you unaware and confused by such a cryptic turn of phrase, until you noticed everything around you in the bus. Everything stopped. Time looked like it was held on pause. There was no sign of movement outside of the bus. In fact, the streets looked empty. Then you spotted the passengers, each of them including the driver, all fallen asleep when moments ago they were all crowding in the bus aisle, wondering what had happened for the bus to stop suddenly. An aura replaced the atmosphere. Dark and still. Are they okay? You spoke in a panic, standing from your seat.
They'll be fine,
reassured Fushiguro, following suit, walking out into the aisle.
as long as that doesn't touch them.
You followed Fushiguro's direction to find an old, disfigured man breathing heavily with a wheeze that squealed from his chest. He stood by the driver's seat, spotting his hand upon the driver's back. Now an empty shell of a man. "What the hell?" you uttered, watching the old man continue to suck the life out of the driver. The squeal from the driver's lungs soon expired, now left with nothing but a husk of what he was.
So you can see him.
Spoke Fushiguro.
Intel was right about you on one thing.
Who? What is he? You questioned, unsure of the strange turn of events.
A dream spirit. Not a curse by any means, but can do a lot of damage when they find suitable feeding grounds.
Explained Fushiguro, his hands forming a symbol akin to how people would create a dog's head for shadow puppetry. He spoke strange words, uttering,
Divine dog. Totality.
out from the shadows that grew from his person. A large wolf with a black mane and a white undercoat clawed its way out from the inky pool, baring its teeth at the old disfigured man ahead.
Easy, boy.
Calmly ordered Fushiguro, the wolf holding its position before its master. The old man, this dream spirit, soon turned its sunken eyes towards Fushiguro, staring blankly at the man before its pupils made its way to you. You stared into its sunken sockets, its eyes only mere shadows before it slowly limped through the bus aisle, avoiding every other passenger.
It's after you.
What?
Get to the back of the bus. Now.
Confused, yet still with a sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach, you slid across the booth and stood behind Fushiguro, slowly walking backwards while keeping your eye on this creature that twisted and contorted with every step. Its bony hand outstretched towards you, never leaving you out of its sights, as if by a trance it ignored everything else.
Get him!
Ordered Fushiguro, the wolf leaping towards the spirit, growling with gnashing teeth. It took hold of the spirit's outstretched arm, crushing it in his jaws and ripping it from its socket. However, the spirit did not yield or stop its movements. It merely turned its eye towards a passenger on the bus, one that you recognized was already asleep earlier on the ride. Energy flowed from the passenger to the spirit, drawing the life out of the man, and in doing so, regenerating the arm it had lost. The wolf chewed and gnashed at the arm it had recently ripped apart, swallowing it before the spirit repaired its own, creating another husk of a person on the bus. Fushiguro cursed under his breath. With every attack, the spirit would draw from a well of energy on the bus, ultimately losing one passenger at a time. The bus was too small of a space to call forth any other Shikigami to his aid, and the risk of harming the spirit further would result in more unwanted deaths. You watched as the spirit turned its eye on Fushiguro, its hand outstretched again, but now towards him. The wolf charged again, its jaw chomping down on the spirit's ankles, halting it in place. It did not flinch from the canine teeth that broke its pallid skin. It only started forward, trying to reach out to Fushiguro.
Gah! Damn it.
He cursed. He was adept in exorcising and destroying curses, but a spirit, well, they were considered immortal unless exorcised correctly. None of his training had explained any of this in great detail. Unless he picked the spirit off piece by piece, each passenger became its next meal. Baku, 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 you whispered, drawing the attention of both Fushiguro and the dream spirit. Come eat my dreams away. You peered through heavy-lidded eyes while an ethereal shape appeared above you, its lumbering form making its way to the bus aisle, behind Fushiguro in a plume of yellow smoke. The size of a dire wolf with the build of a horse. It was a chimera, bearing tusks and a small trunk, while its claws pawed at the metallic grating of the aisle. It peered at the dream spirit with a hunger in its eyes, trumpeting its arrival. From behind it, Fushiguro watched your form, limp and lifeless at the end of the bus, spotting the trail of yellow smoke pouring from your being, feeding into the large mass of the creature.
Shikigami?
He uttered. The wailing of the dream spirit caught him unaware, turning to find it still being held back by his divine dog by the ankles. He saw something in its sunken eyes. A fear, watching the lumbering form of the chimera prowling towards it. The spirit turned to the divine dog by its heels, smacking its nose with its flailing hand in hopes that it would release its clenching jaws. Noticing the spirit's sudden panic, Fushiguro quickly darted out of the aisle, running along the booths towards you, while the large creature continued its way towards the spirit, its teeth gnashing at the sight. Careful not to disturb whatever summoning you were involved in, Fushiguro found that your eyes were half open. Whether you were awake or not, or conscious to understand what was going on, he couldn't tell.
So this is what Gojo was talking about?
He mused.
A grade 2? No. They're inexperienced.
He turned to watch the scene behind him, his Shikigami restraining the spirit, turning bloody from the constant smack across its nose. The large creature, Baku, hulked towards the spirit, staring it in the eye before it grabbed a hold of its skull with its trunk, pulling the head into its mouth. The shrieking and wailing of the spirit was blood-curdling until a loud crunch echoed around the bus. Fushiguro immediately held your head into his shoulder, turning your eyes away from the massacred scene, the sound of bone crunching and flesh ripping familiar to his ear. Soon both Shikigami devoured the spirit into pieces, until there was not a trace left. Fushiguro peered back at the creatures, finding both of them investigating each other, and soon respecting their company. They disappeared together, his in an inky pool of darkness, while yours dissipated into a plume of ethereal smoke. Sound returned while the passengers woke from their unconsciousness. A panic surged through the bus, finding the lifeless bodies of both the driver and that one passenger. Fushiguro still kept a hold of you on the bus, now at the back, out of people's sights. You groaned under your breath while you came to consciousness, squinting your eyes and finding that you were held in Fushiguro's arms. You stared up at him, his gaze analyzing the scene of panicked passengers on the bus.
What are you doing?
You asked groggily.
Keep quiet.
He whispered.
There's already enough attention ahead.
Fushiguro picked up his phone, calling a number on the speed dial while he clutched onto you in his arms, keeping you close and secure.
It's Fushiguro. I've located the sorcerer, but it'll be a while until we return. Ah! Good news. I've gotten mine as well.
Piped a voice on the other line.
A little unorthodox, but the holidays can really bring people together. You're just there for the sweets. That is a bonus.
You attempted to listen in on his side of the conversation, while your head was still muddied from the exhaustion that you felt. It was as if you had run marathons, but you held on to one word in your mind. Sorcerer. What did he mean? His voice soon became a drone, unable to listen in to the rest of his conversation before he hung up. He propped you up on the seat, keeping your head on his shoulder while he watched the panic-stricken scene in front of him. It wasn't long until authorities appeared, recognizing one car that would assist him in this situation.
Can you stand?
He asked, earning a groan from you while you clutched onto his shirt. He lifted you up from your arms, carrying your weight across his shoulders and merging with the crowd, exiting the bus.
Oh, what do you want from me?
You asked drowsily, your feet scraping across the floor while you attempted to keep pace.
You're special. You know that?
He replied.
My former teacher will explain. But for now, just don't say anything. Let me do the talking, pup.
Pup?
You questioned.
We're on nickname basis now? I barely know you.
You will soon enough.
He replied dryly, exiting out of the bus past 2 unfortunate casualties, with you in tow.
What? You're going to sweep me off my feet?
Fushiguro merely kept pace with the crowd, ignoring your comment, and yet recalling how his Shikigami contended and accepted yours, if it were Shikigami. It caused a smirk to cross his lips. Perhaps Gojo was right about this compatibility.
You're not even my kind of Valentine.
Or perhaps not. Thank you for tuning in to another fanfiction reading. If you like what I do or would just prefer to fall asleep to my voice, please hit that like button, ring that bell, and subscribe to my channel. I am actually very keen on exploring different fandoms at this point. Again, a little slow on the uptake, but hopefully we'll be able to bridge out to different things in the future. Otherwise, thank you for visiting. I hope to hear from you soon, next we meet.